I was the very first person to buy one of Lucky Cole's new beer koozies today, and we're celebrating a little bit, and I'm going to impose on my friend Lucky to tell another story. Before I stopped off here today, I know you do. Before I stopped off here today, I stopped off at the Skunk Ape Research Headquarters.
Yeah, Jack and David.
Yeah. And,
good guys, both of them. I really like them.
They're good folks. And
they help me out and support me in my photography, too.
I've been fascinated with Skunk Ape stories, and I know your friend Charles Knight had an experience at the old Gator Hook back in his younger days. But Lucky, I want to ask you, have you ever had a Skunk Ape experience out here on Loop Road?
Well, I'll tell you, I've only got one story about that I can tell you, and it's a true story. My buddy Ben Wolf and I were out fishing. Ben Wolf used to have a place a mile west of me, and we've known each other since 1955. And in 1965, he bought his property out here. That's when I first came out on Loop Road. But anyway, he and I were in his old Jeep swamp buggy, and we're down on what was Pace's Dike, which was the best fishing out here on Loop Road. You had to have a buggy or a Jeep or something like that to get down deep into Pace's Dike, or you had to walk. And anyway, we were down there south end of Pace's Dike, far down as we could go, walking along fishing, and we had a routine that we did. I would drop Ben off. He'd have his fishing pole, a couple of beers in his pocket, and something to hang any fish he caught, hang it on his belt. And I'd drive about 200 yards along the dike, there, the canal, and stop, get out of the Jeep with my, I actually took a tool belt. I used like a carpenter tool belt that had my lures and hooks and stuff, and I could hang my fishing pole on it, place to put a couple of beers, of course, and coolie cup. And I would start walking up ahead of the Jeep. And what would happen is Ben would work his way down to the Jeep, and then he would drive up to me, get my fish if I'd caught any. If I needed a beer, I'd get another beer. He'd go about 200 yards past me, and then he'd get out again. It was kind of like a leapfrog thing we would do. And we spend most of the day fishing doing this. Well, we're all the way down the far south end of Pace's Dike, and most of that down in there is fairly rocky. We're in one place where there's a area going along there and it's muddy, and as I'm walking along, I walk up on a footprint. And it looked like a human footprint in the mud that was big enough that I could put my foot inside that print with my boots on, and you could still see the heels and the toes and the side of that foot. It was the biggest footprint I've ever seen in my life. And back just a little ways from it, where it was still muddy, you could see where it looked like something dug in and took another hard step as it leaped and went across that Pace's Dike, the canal part. And of course, along in there, I mean, this canal is nothing more than a ditch. There were places where somebody in good shape could run and jump across it. Maybe 8 feet wide, 10 feet wide, it varied. But I don't think it ever got more than 10 or 12 feet wide, anything. And there were places along the way where the guy put in culverts where you could go over. Well, when I saw this footprint, I laid my fishing pole and my gear down. Ben was still way back behind me a couple hundred yards. I walked down to the next culvert pipe, which wasn't far away, went over and came back up where I was parallel with my fishing pole and my gear, just to look to see if I could see any other evidence of something crossing there. And there were a few little broken twigs, but all of it was hard and rocky, and there would have been no footprints. And of course the famous smell was worse than a skunk was still lingering. And to this day, I'm not positive that somebody didn't set me up somehow, knowing that Ben and I were going to be down there. I don't know how they could have done those prints without leaving some other sign, because the only other prints in the mud were mine that day until Ben got down there. So unless, get away, wait, let's get that bug away from there. Anyway, well, unless somebody else set me up somehow, it had to have been the real thing.
They couldn't have set up the smell, though, could they?
Oh, I don't know how. I mean, yeah, you could
drag a dead skunk around, maybe.
Maybe something like that. And but I'm not saying the skunk ape is real, and I'm not saying it's not real. I know right now, if we had any Indian prints sitting here, and I was mentioned Skunk Ape or started talking about it, they would just politely get up without saying a word and leave.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Do they have a name for it?
I'm not sure if they don't. I'm not sure if whatever name they have, if they've ever told me the name. I don't remember.
Well, that would indicate at least that they have legends about it that are sacred to them.
Exists, and they believe it's sacred, and it's something that they will not talk about. It's just like they do not sit around and talk about the dead. That's another thing you don't do. They won't talk about people that are gone.
Well,
they're gone, and you don't bring it up.
That's an interesting story. My friend Lucky Cole talking about his one sort of experience with the elusive Florida skunk ape. Thank you, Lucky.
You're welcome.